that he had an unfit head coach. Then his third year,
You deserve some fault for that as well, Eric.
I didn't hire Freddie Kitchens. I just
Oh,
I just
you
picked him to win Coach of the
cursed
Year.
him.
I may have cursed him. Okay, so I'll take blame for that, but that's a great power comes great responsibility thing. So at least I acknowledge by taking responsibility for it, I do in fact have great power. So I will take that. But then you look at his third year, he was pretty good, especially in the second half. He won a playoff game, and then this year he was beat up and had a crummy year because of that. Just about anybody else that was a number one overall pick, people would be like, I think this guy's got something. Right? They would say, okay, let's if not the Browns, somebody else in the NFL would say, we could turn this guy into a franchise quarterback. He has looked the part at times. He just hasn't always had the right situation. It's his attitude that makes it clear to a lot of teams that, one, he's not worth the trouble, and two, he's not necessarily going to commit himself to being the best version of himself because he thinks that he's God's gift to the world as it is, and anybody that doesn't agree is just another chip on his shoulder, and that's just not going to fly anymore.
Yeah. I take issue with a little bit of that. Just because to be a professional athlete, you've got to believe in yourself to such a level that you feel deep down that you are God's gift to humanity, right? You are the best that has ever walked the earth at what you do. And then if somebody says otherwise, I mean, there's got to be something to drive you to work that hard for those many years. So like I sort of appreciate that about Baker, the moxie, whatever, but and then also not showing up to OTAs and stuff. Like I think that's a non-issue, right? Like, if they paid his replacement $240 million, and like why would he show up to OTAs?
I mean,
like what is the point of him doing that?
I mean, I fully agree showing up to OTAs is not a big deal, but the implication from Mayfield and his camp is that he's purely and simply done with being a Cleveland Brown, which would indicate he's not going to show up for training camp either. And
well, the implication from the Browns is that he's done being a Cleveland Brown too.
But he's still on the roster and still under contract, so
because they screwed up and have no leverage and can't trade him.
Okay, but Baker has no leverage either because if he no-shows, he doesn't get paid, and then he never works in the NFL again. So maybe he should stop being a baby and just be like, okay, this is the situation. It's not great, and it's not entirely my fault, but it is what it is. Let me make the most of it. The franchise quarterback that replaced me is going to be suspended for a certain amount of time, probably at least 4 games. If Mayfield's out there for 4 to 6 or even 8 games and can play at a high level and can help the Browns get off to a decent start, at that point, suddenly, he's marketable again. And I don't have a problem with thinking you're the best, you're God's gift to the world or whatever, but there are ways to go about it, and Mayfield does it all wrong because that's his entire career. He does everything the wrong way. And Tom Brady probably thought he was God's gift to the world. Hell, he walked into Robert Kraft's office and said he was the best decision the franchise ever made, and of course he ended up being correct about that. But Tom Brady wasn't looking for a microphone to yell into his entire first 2 years of his career, or pretty much in his entire career at all.
And he showed up to prove that he was good.
Right, his attitude
Baker can't
was
be out here saying like I'm God's gift to the earth, I'm the greatest ever, and not show up to play and show it.
Like there's a level of confidence where you present yourself by saying you don't think I'm good. It's like, yeah, we'll see. That's how Tom Brady acts, where it's like, yeah, I'll show you. But he shows you. He doesn't run his mouth. He's not constantly telling us how special he is and alienating people by being a clown. He just goes out there and does his business. Mayfield at this point, the moxie, the braggadociousness, the attitude, it's not cute anymore. Okay? It's cute when you're a rookie and you look like you're promising. It's impressive when you're actually a really good player, but he's neither of those things anymore. He hasn't shown that he is a franchise quarterback, so why is he telling me he is in this over-the-top abrasive way that is pissing everybody off? You have to get along with people in some way if you're not a guy that has a pedigree, and he does not have a pedigree.
Another piece of news for the NFL this week and today, actually, the Pro Bowl, at least the game aspect of the Pro Bowl, might be done for good. NFL owners have been or the NFL has been talking to players, and owners are meeting to discuss what the future of the Pro Bowl is going to look like. And on the table seems to be getting rid of the actual game, the tackle football game, and maybe replacing it with some other thing that celebrates the players who have been selected. What exactly that could look like, we don't know. We don't know if this could mean an expansion of the skills competitions, or like it could be a meet and greet with the players for fans.
A meet and
we
greet.
Have absolutely
got Mickey Mouse over
we
here.
have absolutely no idea what this means from the NFL.
Well, have it in Orlando and have him be a part of a parade in Magic Kingdom.
It has been
in Orlando.
It has been in Orlando.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying, just keep it there and just have them join the 3:00 parade with Mickey and Donald and everybody else. That would be.
They're going to have that a week later with, you just won the Super Bowl. What are you going to do next? I'm going to Disney World.
Okay.
So it's just 2 weeks of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but this time it's with more football players.
Okay. Not just a sleep-deprived Joe Flacco type person.
Well, Joe Flacco looks like he's sleep-deprived all the time. He's that dull. So.
Yeah. This way, the fans can also meet Lamar Jackson, since they won't get to meet him at the second one.
Oh, okay.
No, so we'll see what happens with that, but I wanted to bring this up really mostly just because I know that this must be devastating news for Evan, because he's the one of us who actually really likes the game. I tune in
I'm the
occasionally
one
for like
of
a
us who
quarter. Eric
admits to
never
liking the
tunes
game.
in at all. Evan watches from start to finish. He loves it.
There's people who watch the Pro Bowl, and there's people who are liars. Okay?
I don't think that Eric
that's
is a
what's
liar.
going on right here. Yeah.
I don't think Eric's a liar.
Yeah, you don't have to admit to watching the Pro Bowl. It's fine. It gets huge ratings every year. I like the Pro Bowl. I think it's entertaining. It's better than whatever else.
For
is on
how
TV
much of
that
the
day.
game? For like the first 2 minutes?
I usually watch the whole thing.
But like, when are people actually watching for there to be ratings?
I mean, I don't doubt that people watch the Pro Bowl, but the idea that everybody watches the Pro Bowl is fallacious.
I think that I feel like those ratings are probably from like Nielsen families who just like, they see it on the list of like possibilities. They're like, oh yeah, we watched it because we want to seem cool, because they don't know what the Pro Bowl is. They don't know that it's actually a lame football game. They see bowl in the name and they're like, oh, this must be really big. I want people to think that I watched it. So they check it off, and that winds up returning huge ratings.
Keep in mind that we're not the average fan, right? The average fan doesn't do a podcast for 3 hours every week talking about football in May.
And yet, the three of us combined, don't even average a whole half of the football game.
Well, according to Evan, we're liars. So apparently we all watch the Pro Bowl with bated breath every year.
Somebody's watching this Pro Bowl. Okay.
Yeah, somebody. I'm sure somebody is, but it ain't me.
One somebody on this show is.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't watch the game. I actually like other sports, so sometimes I'll watch a basketball game or a hockey game instead of that. I'll even watch college basketball, and I hate college basketball over the Pro Bowl.
Oh no.
I think 4 years ago, I actually watched like an Orioles Classic game on Masson during the Pro Bowl.
Corey doesn't even like the Orioles.
I don't.
It's not even a live sporting event. He's watching like.
It was, to be fair, it was against the Yankees, but still.
I'm sure the Orioles won because they wouldn't put it on Orioles Classics.
No, they wouldn't.
It would go on Yankees Classics if the Yankees won. So,
yeah. Anyway, we'll see what happens with the Pro Bowl. One last piece of NFL news. This week, the NFL decided to expand the Rooney Rule to include quarterback coach interviews, which, I mean, until that rule actually starts to have an effect on head coach hirings and coordinator hirings, this doesn't really move the needle for me. It's all hat, no cattle. It's an action with no actual consequence to it. I don't really, what are we supposed to applaud the NFL for doing this?
Yeah, it's one more job for the Rooney Rule not to work for.
Right.
Because it doesn't work for head coaches or anything else. So just expanding it to other jobs is like, hey, here's something that doesn't work here. You guys want to try it? And it's going to have the same results.
Yeah.
They want to look like they're doing something, but in theory the Rooney Rule works, but in practice it has no teeth. Yeah. There's nothing here.
One change that they've made, though, that will have a little bit of an impact, not in any way on the issue that the Rooney Rule claims to be trying to address, but going forward, currently employed coaches cannot be interviewed, or currently employed within the NFL coaches cannot be interviewed for head coaching vacancies until after Wild Card Weekend. So, in past years, we have Black Monday, the day after the last game of the regular season. You get, usually 5, 6, 7 teams fire their head coach, and they can pretty much begin in earnest talking to coaches from other teams if they want to. And this was always really difficult, particularly for coaches currently employed by NFL teams, because now they're trying to, kind of do double duty. They're trying to prepare for an interview with another team, and they're trying to prepare their team to play in the playoffs. And especially now that there's only one team in each conference that gets a bye week for the wild card, that's more good coaches who are coaching during wild card weekend. So I think that this is a good thing. I think that this, I think that it may give some more interviews to people not currently employed as NFL coaches, and give them an opportunity to try and step in there and at least get in an interview during that 1 week time span where current coaches can't interview. But then it'll also give those coaches more time to focus on preparing for the game for the wild card. Hopefully we'll get better, even better football than we get for wild card weekend. And they'll be better prepared to interview for those jobs when they are allowed to interview afterwards.
I think this is a great idea. I always thought it was strange how, the coaches still coaching in the playoffs were also interviewing for other jobs. Like, it seemed like there should be some sort of dead period where, team fires their coach. You can't hire a new coach until after the Super Bowl or something. Like, it seems like there's too many things going on all at the same time. So I like this.
Yeah. So let's move on to some kind of off-topic stuff, things that do not have to do with any of the major sports. Start with some college football. We got a little bit of
You're saying college football is not major?
No.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm glad we're not living in the South here.
Oh my goodness!
All 5 of our listeners.
Somebody
might
will shoot you.
Yeah, we might die.
Yeah. Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher are apparently in a bit of a feud. So if you have not been paying attention, basically to recap the verbal kerfuffle, this is from ESPN. Saban said in a speaking engagement on Wednesday that Texas A&M bought every player in its highly regarded 2022 recruiting class. His old assistant, Jimbo Fisher, held nothing back in response, including suggesting that, quote, somebody should have slapped Nick Saban. In a Made-for-Finnebaum shotgun press conference that lasted... Feinbaum. Sorry, thank you. In a Made-for-Feinbaum shotgun press conference that lasted nearly 10 minutes, Fisher called Saban a narcissist and essentially accused him of paying players over the years with the memorable insult, "Go look into how God did his deal." Yes, he said that at a press conference. Fisher used the word despicable 15 times in this response. Saban was speaking to a bunch of business owners and wealthy people when he said this. So there's a question about whether he was hinting to them that they need to reach deeper into their own pockets. And the SEC has now publicly reprimanded both coaches. So this is all hilarious. Can somebody fill me in and give me some commentary?
Oh my goodness.
This is excellent.
I mean, you have all the context, right? Like, Saban was talking about name, image, and likeness, and he mentioned how Texas A&M bought their whole team, basically.
But you can't tell me that there's no money exchanging hands within the Alabama program.
Yeah, his name's Bryce Young.
Yes.
Bryce Young's got a bunch of money.
Yeah, this is the pot calling the kettle black on this one. Like, what are you talking about, Nick Saban? So, they start going back and forth, and so Saban mentioned Deion Sanders' program as well in his remarks about how kids at that school are getting name, image, likeness deals. And then Jimbo Fisher got on his moral high horse, saying that they didn't break any state laws in the state of Texas. I'm like, there aren't any state laws about this, so sure you didn't break any. So, it's just a big mess, and I love it so much. This is what college football is about. It's not even about the games. It's about yelling at each other about nothing. So more, please. Yeah, so Bryce Young got a whole bunch of money before he even played a snap at Alabama, and he won the Heisman Trophy. So, the name, image, and likeness, I think, has been tremendous for college football in the sense that the people who deserve the money the most are getting it.
Yeah, I fully agree. This spat, I think Saban made it about name, image, and likeness, but that's not really what it's about. What it's really about is, for the first time in a long time, Saban has been consistently challenged by another program to land top-level recruits, and he's
a little salty about it.
Yeah, he's a little prickly about that, and the fact that it happens to be a former assistant, a national champion in Jimbo Fisher probably just makes it all the worse. And also the fact that it's a conference rival. It's a division rival. Yeah, so, this is a team they see every year. And
they play on October 8th.
And Texas A&M beat Alabama last season. I don't think you're seeing this happen if we're talking about Arkansas or Mizzou. But we're talking about Texas A&M, who has a track record, a recent track record at least, of competing with and beating Alabama. So this is definitely a little bit of defensive position from Nick Saban to sort of lob shots at somebody else that's having success, sort of on his watch and at his expense. That's what this is really about. It has nothing to do with the moral standing of NIL or any type of stuff that Jimbo Fisher may be doing, and Jimbo Fisher firing back at Saban for some of the sort of questionable, sleazy methods that Saban has used in the past, which are well documented, by the way. It's not a secret, and nor was it illegal when Saban did some of the stuff he did, but it certainly was violating the spirit of whatever rules there were. That was not meant to be an indictment of Saban's moral character. It was meant to, you are our rival. We see you as our biggest threat, and you're pissing us off because you're undermining what we've done to ascend to potentially being a threat to you. And so now we're going to come at you and tell you how much you suck instead. It's I know what you are, but what am I, or whatever. It's not a real issue. It's just
this is a lot of talk from Texas A&M, with their going back to Eric Dickerson in the 80s, and Texas A&M with their grand total of 0 national championships in the last 70 years.
Yeah, haven't won since World War II. Maryland's got a national championship before Texas A&M, or more recently than Texas A&M did, because I had to remind an Aggie fan on Twitter about that when they were making fun of Texas for losing to the Terps and how that's a second-rate program. And I was looking at y'all, I'm like, we've won more recently than you have, so maybe pipe down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Real quick before we move on to the next thing, just want to be clear. I do know who Paul Feinbaum is. I was distracted by somebody misspelling press conference 2 words later in my script.
That sounds like a giant excuse for calling him Finnebaum. It's like Paul Cinnabon. You put him in an airport, there you go.
Hey, Cinnabons are awesome.
The last national championship that Texas A&M has claimed was in 1939. So, is that before World War II?
Yeah, it's before the Blitzkrieg.
Goodness gracious.
It's pretty bad.
Real quick, just want to get some thoughts. This isn't really that big of a story, but the Carrier Dome has been renamed to the JMA Wireless Dome. And we love ridiculous dome names on this podcast, like KFC Yum Center for Louisville basketball, Guaranteed Rate Field, Crypto.com Arena.
Yeah, I'm just thankful I assume this is not crypto related, so that's a plus. It's wireless related, cell phone. Right?
Yeah, it sounds like it's a cell phone company
so
or something.
At least it's not that.
But any thoughts on the fact that it's not the Carrier Dome anymore? That's kind of an iconic name. It's been the Carrier Dome since the 80s when it opened.
Yeah, that's what I've always known it as.
But the Carrier Dome, it doesn't have its iconic roof anymore. It got remodeled.
That's true. Yeah, it did.
So now it's got this futuristic looking thing instead of the puffy air-filled roof, where it would have made sense for an air conditioning company to sponsor that.
Yeah. Something I did not know about the Carrier Dome is that it's not just the home of Syracuse's football and basketball teams. It's also where the lacrosse team plays their home games. I never knew that. Makes sense,
No,
but
it's as irrelevant
they
as
play?
lacrosse. So
the ATP has announced that they will not award ranking points to Wimbledon players this year. The decision comes after Wimbledon unilaterally banned all players from Russia and Belarus from competing, and because of this, with the 2,000 points from Wimbledon that Djokovic won last year and now can't defend, he is at risk of losing his number one world ranking to a Russian player, no less.
I don't get it.
all right, so
What is Djokovic not allowed to compete in Wimbledon because he's unvaccinated?
no, he's allowed
Is
to
that-
play.
Well, then. Oh,
Then
'cause
what
he-
did I read?
Oh,
Did I miss?
No, he's allowed to compete. He's just they don't award
he
points.
can't gain anything
Right.
from
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So Djokovic
Oh,
is going to lose the 2,000 points for winning last year's because the way it works, it's a rolling ranking
Yeah.
system. And so if you gain, let's say you make the semifinals at Wimbledon, you gain 720 points. Yes, I actually know that off the top of my head. But then if you play there the next year and you only make the quarterfinals, you gain 360 points for making the quarters, but you lose the 720 that you had last year. So you lose points. Here, Djokovic has 2,000 points that he has to defend, but he can't gain any this year. So no matter what he does, even if he repeats, he loses 2,000 ranking points, and that could cost you the number one ranking. But the thing
Especially
is,
after he wasn't allowed to compete in Australia.
but that's his fault.
Well, yes, it is.
And frankly, this is much ado about nothing because everybody's losing points. Nobody's gaining anything from being here unless you're a first-time appearer at Wimbledon. You're losing
yeah, but
out on your
everybody else
points.
is sort of gaining on him because they're even the people who made it to like the semifinals at Wimbledon last year or made it to the finals but lost to him. You're losing fewer points than he is.
Yeah, but you're only unfairly gaining on him is if he wins the tournament again. So if he has a bad round, it actually works to his benefit because he would have gotten fewer points than other people.
That's true.
So to me, the reason why Djokovic is in danger of losing his number one ranking again is because he didn't compete in Australia. That's really it. And he had some other bad tournaments earlier in the year. I'm not. My feeling is if you need to defend all of your points at a major, you were on the verge of being unseated anyway. And I believe for like a week or two, he actually did lose his number one ranking this year before getting it back because he missed the tournament in Melbourne, and that cost him 2,000 points. And I think that's just desserts. You didn't do what you had to do. And again, it wasn't like he took a stand on it. He did some clown stuff, and he got deported. Like they're ready to drop him into the ocean. So
Yes.
it wasn't like he was just saying, okay, I'm not vaccinated, so I guess I can't compete. He was trying to finagle his way into the tournament when he had no business being there by using some made-up stuff as some exemption for being vaccinated. I'm like, nah.
He's
And-
about to be the newest resident of the Great Barrier Reef. Like, just, internationally renowned fool Novak Djokovic.
That's right.
Oh, I can't stand him.
He's not
So-
great. Corey used to love him.
Yeah.
I used to like him.
Ooh.
You do?
Love is a little strong.
Why?
I used to like him.
Oh.
Well, I know why you used to like him,
Yeah.
but not into him anymore. Not
No.
feeling it.
No. Before we get to baseball, Evan, you went on a trip this past weekend. Another trip.
And he's going on another trip this weekend with yours truly.
Yeah. So a lot of miles in the car. So I made a pilgrimage up to Cedar Point last week, and it was amazing. Oh my goodness. So, got to ride all the big rides, rode all the little rides, rode everything. Bought the Fast Lane Plus for a whole bunch of money. So could skip all the lines if I wanted to. And we did. So we ran into a bit of weather on Friday. It was windy and a lot of stuff was closed. But that's why I booked 2 days in case of weather. I didn't think wind would be an issue. I thought it would rain. But you definitely, I recommend Cedar Point to everybody, unless you're out of shape, in which case it's going to be a long day for you because it was like 10 a.m. and there's some larger people who are just turning red and sweating and stuff, and like they're in for a rough time, because it's like 7 or 8 miles of walking. If you're not ready for that type of thing, it's not for you. I would have liked Millennium Force to be a bit more reliable. It was down the whole day Thursday. Then it finally opened like right at the end of the day. My sister and I rode it, and of course it breaks down again. And we actually got evacuated off of it and got skipped the line passes to ride it again. So we rode it again on Friday during the little bit of time it wasn't broken down on Friday.
I didn't know that Farron went with you. That's cool.
Yes. So we had a great time. Coaster count up to 154.
I don't care about yours. What is Farron's coaster count up to?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. So in the event that there's a tiebreaker between you two and you have to guess a number, you might want to remember 154.
Yeah.
Well, we're going
at least
to
for the
Carowinds.
next month.
Yeah, we're going to Carowinds next week. Are there any roller coasters at Carowinds that you have not ridden?
No.
Okay. I
Well,
don't think so.
Let's see. The kiddie coaster I haven't ridden, but you have to be an actual child to ride that.
Okay, so we can't cram into it and bang our knees on the front of the cart like I did on Harley
Don't
Quinn's
say
Death
cart,
Trap.
please.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, since we've deviated, there's plenty of terrible rides to hurt you at Carowinds. So
I'll try my best to
I'm gonna leave
experience
it
all
up
of
to
it.
you, right? Because I've ridden all of them. If you want to ride crap, then we can. But I imagine you might just want to stick to the big four.
Probably.
Let's jump on over to Major League Baseball, and we'll start with my Yankees because I'm hosting this week. And the Yankees are on a 3-game skid. Lost 3 in a row.
Who'd they lose to last
What
night?
happened last night?
No comment.
Dead air. Love it.
So the Yankees still do have the best record in the majors, but only by half a game now. We do still have a 4.5-game lead on Tampa Bay in the AL East. Aaron Judge went deep twice last night in the loss to the Orioles, but he extended his MLB home run lead to 5. He's got 17 on the season, which is 5 more than Alvarez or Trout have. So, Yordan Alvarez and Mike Trout have both been hitting quite well, but Judge is on another level right now. Josh Donaldson has been suspended for 1 game. He is appealing that suspension. The suspension comes after some comments that he made toward Tim Anderson, the shortstop for the Chicago White Sox, called him a Jackie, or referred to him as Jackie, which he says is a reference, and I believe him when he says it's a reference to a few years ago when Tim Anderson kind of compared himself to Jackie Robinson, said that it's about time for me to change the game, which, like, come on, Tim Anderson, what are you talking about? But
Tim Anderson's awesome. He is changing the game.
I like Tim Anderson. Is he really changing the game, though?
No.
I mean, he's
Shohei
getting the old
Ohtani is
fuddy-duddies
changing the game.
out of their dinosaur stances.
I agree that he is among the group of players that is helping to, quote unquote, let the kids play, but he certainly isn't unilaterally changing anything.
Yeah, if anything, you look
Ronald
at a guy
Acuna's
like
been around
Ronald
longer
Acuna,
than
or you
him.
look at Fernando Tatis. You look at those kinds of guys, and you say,
does
yeah,
Fernando Tatis plays so much these days.
I mean, sure, but also unless you actually follow baseball, I didn't know who Tim Anderson was until last year, and that was only because I was playing fantasy baseball. He's not in the news. Even
That's on you.
Okay, you should
but
have known
he's
who
not
he
in the
was.
news as a guy who's
Yes, he was.
who's one of the fun young players.
Yes, he was.
You see Ronald Acuna, you see Fernando Tatis.
He was throwing his bat every home run. It was awesome.
I was not.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball was not promoting him enough, I guess, because I was not
don't
seeing
promote
any of
anybody.
that until
I don't
last
think
year.
you were looking. right? Like,
And honestly,
if
right
you
now,
look,
it's
you'll
news
find
to me that
stuff.
he's been throwing his bat. I didn't even know that about him. I just knew that
Oh
he's a
my
really good
God.
shortstop. I knew he's a good defender. I knew he's a really good hitter. I didn't know that he was one of the fun guys until just now.
Corey,
So
I would like to think that Yankees fans don't know anything about baseball, and I know that's not true, but you're not helping right now. Okay? I do not know who Tim Anderson was until last year. He led the league in batting in like 2018 or something.
Yeah, that's well, but still,
but he doesn't come off as a showy guy. Like not
Yes, he
from
does.
what I have seen. Not from what I have seen. So that's
calls himself Jackie Robinson.
Well,
That's as showy as it gets.
but that also was news to me when Josh Donaldson mentioned that. But anyway, the point though here is Josh Donaldson being suspended. He made that comment, called him Jackie because of that interview, but I don't know what Josh Donaldson is doing. First of all, the way that he defended it was really weird. Called it an inside joke. It's not an inside joke unless you're also in on it. Like, Tim Anderson didn't make that comment with you in the room. He didn't make it in a comment where you were interviewing him. Like, that's not an inside joke. It's a reference at best. The other thing is that there has been a little bit of history between Josh Donaldson and the Chicago White Sox. And just a couple weeks ago, there was a little bit of a scruffle between Josh Donaldson and Tim Anderson when the Yankees catcher threw back to third base as Tim Anderson was leading off of it, and Josh Donaldson blocked his way back to the bag. Anderson reached underneath him. I don't know if he touched the bag or not, but the umpire called Anderson safe because Donaldson was pushing him off the bag or whatever. So there had already been a little something between the two of them as it was, and now
scruffle.
you call him Jackie. And I get the reference. I don't believe that he was being intentionally racist with the comment, but you got to do better, Josh Donaldson.
I
mean, if he wasn't being intentionally racist, Josh Donaldson can believe that if he wants. But perception is reality in here on the earth, and so if he wasn't being intentionally racist, it certainly came off that way, right? Tim Anderson is one of the few black stars in baseball today, and one of the. I mean,
it
what
definitely
Jackie
comes
Robinson's
across
best
like you're
known
using
for is being the only black player in baseball.
It
So
definitely comes across, especially given the fact that they
how do you
might
not
have a
relate
little bit
those?
of beef with each other, or he might at least have beef with the organization. I mean, what was it last year that he yelled at Lucas Giolito "Oh, no more sticky stuff" or whatever after he hit a home run off of him? There's been a little bit of history there. It comes across like you're using the word Jackie in a derogatory manner, which, regardless of your intentions to be disrespectful or not to be disrespectful to Tim Anderson, definitely seems a little bit disrespectful to the memory of Jackie Robinson.
Well, it was disrespectful.
Disrespectful to somebody.
It was disrespectful of Tim Anderson to compare himself to Jackie Robinson. That's the disrespectful part here. Okay, you're gonna make me go to bat for Josh Donaldson here, which I absolutely hate doing, but I don't take an issue with him clowning Tim Anderson for making a clown-like statement by comparing himself to Jackie Robinson. He's nothing like Jackie Robinson. Okay, Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier.
He wasn't allowed to be showy.
He wasn't even allowed to play baseball until he forced his way in. Okay? Jackie Robinson fought for the ability of black people to play Major League Baseball. Tim Anderson fights for young players to be able to moonwalk when they hit home runs. There's no comparison, and he was an idiot for making that statement. So, frankly, I don't really feel bad if people clown him by saying, hey, you're a dummy for that. That doesn't mean that Josh Donaldson meant it that way. I'm not in his head. But you sit there and you say something like that, you put a target on your back, and you're liable for people to make snide remarks. Now, I will say this. I can't speak for Josh Donaldson, but after Tim Anderson comes out and says, felt a little racist, that's when it has to stop. Because at that point, if you continue to do so, you are deliberately tapping into racial animus.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, Donaldson hasn't done that since. But I do know about 45,000 Yankee fans that decided to chant Jackie at him, and there's something to be said about that. That is a big problem in my mind.
Yeah, and I unfortunately, I wasn't shocked by that. And I mean, Yankees fans have done some questionable things in the stadium before anyway. I mean,
Yeah, ask the Guardians.
they threw a bunch of stuff on the field earlier this season.
At the Guardians.
Yeah, with the like, what are we doing? But even beyond that, just looking at Yankees Reddit and the way that they were responding to this whole thing with Donaldson and Anderson, I was just like, oh no, this is not good. Like, what are we doing here? Like, they're not just defending Josh Donaldson, trying to say like he's not racist. They're like going way overboard against Tim Anderson. Like, chill out, people. Like, it doesn't need to be all this.
Yeah, and again, I stand by my point that I don't think Josh Donaldson had any intent, and therefore you get a warning, right? Like, if you say something and somebody says, that feels a little racist to me, and then you stop, I think we can be boys again, right? Like, we're good. If you keep pushing it and you keep going there, even after you've been told how it comes across to somebody and that it's hurtful, it's disrespectful, it's racist, then you've chosen to be that at that point.
Yeah.
That was your choice.
Yep. Nobody tell Roger's dad, but the Angels are fighting to maybe win a pennant here. Are the Angels actually contenders? They are currently the top wild card in the American League. So, pennant, we can slow down a little bit on that talk. But they are fourth in the American League on ERA. They're first in the American League in batting average and in opposing batting average. Seems like things are finally kind of coming together. I mean, all this, for all these years, we've been like, they're just wasting Mike Trout's career. They're going to waste Shohei Ohtani's prime. They're contending right now. Can they keep it that way?
Well, you would hope so, given the fact that they've got two of the most valuable players in baseball.
They had two of the most valuable players in baseball last year.
Yeah, but Trout got hurt.
Trout did get hurt, but they were already kind of out of the conversation even before he got hurt.
25 games in the season, they were out of the conversation? Because he only played 25 games. He got hurt after like a month.
Was it only a month?
Yeah, he did not play much at all last year.
I thought it was more than that. Okay.
But it's hard to trust the Angels, though, because history's not on their side. But even so, even aside from Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, it looks like they're actually getting something out of Anthony Rendon, who they signed, 3 off seasons ago, and he was just an absolute nothing burger for them up until this point. So hopefully he could stay healthy. But beyond that, I feel like if you've got Mike Trout, who is, when he's healthy, he can get you 9 to 10 wins above replacement every year. And to take issue with your statement that Aaron Judge is on another level, well, it looks like Aaron Judge trails Mike Trout in WAR, so there's that. But no shame in that. People usually do. Mike Trout almost always leads the league in that, especially when he's playing 150 to 160 games a year. But if you've got him, you've got Shohei Ohtani, who last year put up 8 wins above replacement, and he does it 2 different positions. And you've got a healthy Anthony Rendon, who's usually worth 5 to 6 wins. That's 26 WAR right there. You only need you just have to dig up another 20 to be a playoff team. Now, the Angels have a hard time doing that, but there's not that much left to bridge the gap between being a bum-ass team that they've been and actually making a wild card. So I think that they should stay in the mix. I had them as probably my last team out when we predicted, just because we've got 3 of them now. I figured they would be the 4th wild card team if there was such a thing, purely because I figured, okay, this year Mike Trout might stay healthy and Shohei Ohtani's amazing, and something's got to give. They've got to have something going for them, because you can't be this bad this long without a farm or without something maligning you to prevent you from getting to where you need to get. But it just felt like at some point they have to at least be competitive. They can't just perpetually suck ass.
Somebody please
Or you have the Mariners in the playoffs. You predicted the Mariners.
Yeah, I did, and we're about to talk about them in just a moment, because somebody please do tell Buster Olney that the Orioles have the same record as the Mariners. They're 18-25, which is, it's only on pace for 68 wins, which isn't anything great, but they have a better record than the Athletics, than the Tigers, than the Royals, the Cubs, the Pirates, the Nationals, and the Reds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
they actually have a better record than quite a few teams.
Yeah, and the Mariners are going to have their playoff streak reach drinking age, because they're pathetic. And I do find there's a twist of irony there, with the fact that the teams that called up hot prospects, right? Like I think the Mariners called up Kelenic,
Jared Kelenic,
and they had don't they have Julio Gonzalez coming up at some point?
Yeah.
And then the Royals have Bobby Witt Jr., who was cut from a certain person's fantasy baseball team a couple weeks ago, and and you've got who's the guy for the Tigers that
Torkelson.
Torkelson, and you got all these guys and everybody was whining about the Orioles not having Adley Rutschman up on opening day, and how these guys are breaking camp with the major league team and this, that, and the other, and where are they? They suck. They're worse than the Orioles. So, and
guess who's now with the Orioles?
And someone tell Buster Olney. Buster Olney's already pivoted to whining about Adley Rutschman wearing Mike Mussina's numbers. So he's no longer whining about the tanking. He's going to complain about something else. So.
Even though other players have worn that number since Mike Mussina left
and
Baltimore.
Mike Mussina chose to go into the Hall of Fame without any specific logo on his cap. He didn't go in as a Yankee or as an Oriole. Well, good for him. That's his choice, but then you don't get your number retired at Oriole Park. That's the game. You decide if you decide to disassociate yourself with the Orioles, your number's fair game. I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it either. I mean, if he went in as an Oriole, his number would be up there with everybody else. But he made his decision, so the Orioles made theirs. That's life.
The Yankees are not the only New York team who are playing really well. The Mets lead the NL East by 8 games. Now we'll have to see, if losing Max Scherzer for an extended period of time is going to cut that lead down a bit. But that's a lot of other players. But that's a lot of other players who are also playing well for that team. I can't imagine that he makes up any more than 1 or 2 of those games. I think I agree with you, Evan. It might make it like a 7 or 6 game advantage, but
you also have to consider that Jacob deGrom is probably coming back within the next month or so.
I hope so. I got him on my team.
He's chilling on your IL. Yeah, I've seen him there for a while.
Yeah, I'm hoping he comes back. I need some pitching help.
I think this division race is over already.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah,
it's the Mets.
I think it's kind of done.
It's the Mets.
Okay.
They were in this position last year.
Yeah, but that is true. But
I'm just saying.
Like,
I don't want to
feel like the Mets are the real deal now.
Because they got Bucky.
I think they have some secret
I think we
sauce.
said that last year.
I didn't believe they were the real
wasn't
deal.
a
I
believer
just
last
thought they were the best among a bad crop of teams in the division, and I was right up until DeGrom got hurt. And then
I picked the Braves to win the division last year, and I was right. But this year, I think the Mets are the real deal. The Braves. I mean, the Braves are under 500. They're not good right now.
They did this last year though too. They sucked early in the season last year. They were terrible.
Yeah, Acuna hasn't really been doing a whole lot until the last week or two.
Well, he's coming off that injury,
right? So but now he's starting to hit pretty well. So that's going to start making a difference.
Yeah, I feel like the Braves pitching has been a disappointment. They were supposed to get some guys back, and it's just, I don't know what's
Where's
going on.
Mike Soroka? Right?
Didn't he tear both Achilles or the same one twice?
No, he retore the same one.
I feel like that's impossible to recover from. To do it twice to the same tendon. How do you bounce back from that? It just feels like there's not.
How do you stand up after that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Padres are only half a game behind the Dodgers in the NL West. Where were the Padres at this point last year? Because I feel like they were pretty well in contention at this point last year.
They were neck and neck. Remember, we were getting excited.
They were definitely neck and neck in each of their head-to-head games. Those games were must-watch TV last year.
They were solidly in the second wild card spot behind the Giants and the Dodgers.
And then things went down. I mean, Tatis got hurt, and they started losing.
Their pitching was really bad.
Yeah,
that was the big thing. Is last year their pitching was underachieving all season, but the performance of Tatis and Machado and Cronenworth really carried the offense enough to be able to win some games.
Yeah.
Plus,
and they lost Mark Melancon this year, but they have Taylor Rogers.
Taylor Rogers has been lights out.
Yeah.
So they traded for him, and they gave up Chris Paddock, who's now having Tommy John, and already had a case of the sucks, so that was a win for them.
Wait, Paddock's having Tommy John surgery? He's on one of my fantasy teams.
How many fantasy teams do you have?
I think he has 2.
2.
Okay. So you don't have like 28. This one guy was talking about how he's talking about how my average rating for having this guy was this. I'm like, how many fantasy teams you got? He said like he had like 115. I'm like, how is that fun? That's not fun. That's unless you're getting significant money for winning those leagues, and it sounded like he wasn't really winning much. That's not fun. Like, what are you doing? Anyway, the Padres are good.
Having Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, so I think that this year their success is a bit more sustainable just because of that pitching and because they are doing it without Tatis, who is probably going to return soon, and the fact that Manny Machado, we talked about him 2 podcasts ago, is still absolutely killing it and holding the fort down. The fact that their bullpen has been as reliable as it's been, the fact that Yu Darvish has seemingly returned to form. The fact that Blake Snell has hurt, so he can't go out there and pitch terribly every game, that's
actually he came back last week and pitched terribly.
Exactly. So he's only done it once instead of 8 times by now. So that's kind of reinforces my point.
Yeah.
Speaking of your guys' fantasy baseball teams, y'all had an epic matchup last week. The first time ever in our league that in a 7-day game a team scored 200 points, and it was Eric who got to that point first, and then it was Evan who got to that point second, and Evan who passed Eric and won the week to stay undefeated. So I want to first talk to Eric.
Yeah, what does Eric have to say now? Because he was saying a whole bunch of stuff this time last week about he's ahead, and it had been a grand total of a day and a half, and he was ahead. And then now it's like, well, here's this L.
You were feeling yourself just a little bit last week.
Okay, but I was still ahead after 6 days too. It wasn't like I talked smack.
You were leading at the end of every single day of the week except for Sunday.
It wasn't like I went out there and talked smack on Tuesday, and then by Tuesday night I was losing. That wasn't the case.
You were losing on Wednesday night because I outscored you 59-8.
But then I took the lead back, and I was ahead for the vast majority of the week. It was a really close, competitive, absolute slobber knocker game. I got no regrets. I'll own my trash talk. It wasn't like my team fell apart. I had a great week. Evan had a better week. It happens. Let me ask you this, okay? Was this week more fun for you because I talked smack?
I didn't enjoy it at all, actually.
Oh, well, that sounds like
very frustrating.
That sounds like a you problem then, because I had a lot more fun. I was much more invested in this game because
Evan, you were 5-0 and you found the week frustrating. I'm so sorry.
Yes, I was frustrated.
So I hear all the time during football season how Eric always has the best team and he leads the league in points and complaints. And now who's bitching all the time here? You woke up on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon and saw Tommy Edman had 7 points. And you're like, oh my God. It's like, I might actually lose a game.
I didn't wake up on Sunday afternoon seeing Tommy Edman had 7 points. I was at that game and watched Tommy Edman go crazy. Okay? The Pirates suck so bad they couldn't get him out.
They couldn't get him out all week because he was tearing it up the whole time. But
he just hits a little dribbler up the middle. That's a single. Then he comes around to score because the Pirates can't do anything right. Then he rips a double in the gap with a bunch of people on base. And, of course, he comes around to score again because the Pirates can't complete a relay throw.
So
this was in the first 2 innings.
So let me explain something here. I talked my ish. I lost the game, and I'm sitting here feeling great, having a good time, and you won an epic fantasy baseball game to stay undefeated, and you're just ranting about the Pirates against Tommy Edman. So, I feel okay. I feel okay.
Let me I've got plenty of my own horn to toot, and it only takes 8 hours to get to Carowinds, by the way. So, we'll have plenty to discuss.
Oh, no. Let me disabuse you of that notion right now. Okay, you do not get to front run here. Okay, you had your chance to talk your smack during the week. You decided to keep your mouth shut the whole time because you thought you were going to lose. And now you're going to bring it here. No. Game's over.
No.
Your window is closed.
Dance on your fantasy team's grave
now.
No.
You do not get to be a coward about this. You had your chance to talk smack. You were too big of a wuss to do it then. You don't get to do it now.
Wuss.
Do not embarrass yourself. Do not embarrass yourself.
Don't embarrass myself. I didn't go on a podcast for the whole world to hear talking about how I was going to win and then didn't.
Yeah,
win.
and you also didn't talk about how you were going to win, like, in a private chat with just the league people either, Evan. So
you did nothing. You sat back and thought, oh no, I'm going to lose. You were apparently getting ridiculously frustrated because you couldn't shake my team the whole week. And so now you're going to talk smack after that? No.
No,
No.
my team speaks for itself. I don't need to say anything.
Well, then
Well,
don't.
then
What are you
They-
doing
they
here?
what were you
Other
talking about
7
8
y'all worry about
hours of
getting
a
over
car ride to
500.
Carowinds about?
No, there's not going to be any 8-hour conversation. Or if you do, you'll sit over there by yourself and you'll get absolutely no response. And you'll be like a troll on Twitter that's been muted screaming into the void because I don't care. Your time to talk smack is over. It's
you can't
done.
not care after you cared before, right?
I've
You
moved
can't
on.
be like,
I'm on to
"Oh,
the
well,
next
I lost.
week."
I wasn't trying that hard. It doesn't mean that much to me anymore."
Clearly, you were
Like,
trying harder
that's
because I'm
not how
sitting
that
here.
works either.
I'm as cool as a Hindu cow, and you are salty right now, and you won. So what does that say?
To be fair, the noise level, the volume level of your little rants suggests that maybe you're not all that calm.
I am
over that.
totally fine
You might
with
be
this.
feeling a little bit.
No, you're not fine.
upset. I mean,
That's
you're-
not true in
'cause
the
keep
least
in mind,
bit, Eric.
Your team is 2-4.
Uh-huh.
You're tied for the worst record in our league.
Uh-huh.
And your team just wasted a 200-point performance.
They didn't waste it. They just
Uh-huh.
lost.
Yeah,
How can
exactly.
I waste a
You
performance?
wasted a apparently twice in 2 year type of performance.
Okay, so what?
The second highest score ever, and you lost.
Okay. My
Like, that
team
go,
put
that
up-
goes beyond having a 6-1 breakdown and losing. Like this, that's worse.
Okay, but if my team can put up 200 points, then they can get back into it this season. I got nothing to worry
But
about.
you haven't been putting up 200 points until now. You haven't
just
even,
did.
You haven't even been putting up 150 points until now.
No, that's
Yeah.
not true. I beat your ass a couple weeks
did.
ago putting up 150, so you better relax with that because I'm playing you this week.
Yeah, you are playing me this week.
See, Evan, this is how you do it. You talk smack during the week, so that way you can't just be like, oh, yeah, well, I won, so now I'm going to, actually
Oh.
puff my chest out
mean,
like I'm awesome, even though you
can't
were...
talk smack and not back it up, Eric.
I backed
you
it up.
can't
I
do
put up
that.
206 points.
And
That's
what
what
was
happened.
the result?
Doesn't
What
matter.
happened?
But
And
you
then
also,
what
but
happened?
Evan, you also can't back up smack talk that you didn't talk.
Yeah, you didn't talk squat. You were
I
scared.
don't need to talk.
You were quivering. You were shaking in your boots out there at PNC Park or wherever the game was. So, yeah, that's what you were doing. You can't act like you're all, this hot stuff when you were...
To be fair, the quivering might have just been the Chicago win. It's a bit of a
Doesn't
show.
matter. It doesn't matter. You had your window. You wussed out. And now you're going to sit here and act like, oh, well, now I got my time to shine. No, you had your time. And you didn't cash in. Fortune favors the brave. You were not brave. Take a walk.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
I
know.
got the
You're
fortune,
you're
though.
sitting here talking about how you were so brave to talk smack. Fortune
Take an
didn't seem to
L.
favor you.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You don't get to
It
talk
does
smack
matter.
after the game. This is how
You
it
are
works.
what your record says you are, Eric.
Uh-huh.
And your record says you're in last place.
And your record says you're a cowardly trash talker, so pipe down.
And mine says I'm in first.
Congratulations. You've got fake baseball going for you. I've got integrity. What do you got?
don't even have that.
Oh, yeah, but I can
don't have
actually
fake
talk
baseball.
smack and take my L's on the chin. Instead, you sit there and just like, well, I'm going to wait until I actually win the game before I say anything. How confident were
Yeah.
you really then? Mr. 6-0? Not all that confident, I guess.
I mean, I'd
This
rather
is
be
embarrassing
Mr.
for
6-0 than Mr. 2-4.
And I'd rather actually be able to talk smack with a little bit of something to lose, unlike you.
Okay. I mean, that you enjoy, I guess, admiring the view from last place.
And you can enjoy being in
that's
first
fine.
place and being neurotic and miserable. How about that? Because that's what it
I
sounds like
will.
you were all
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the NBA so we can hear some
know,
more from Eric.
Yeah, you're going from me.
defend
The one that
last
actually
place
watches
fantasy
sports on this podcast.
Oh, my
I've actually watched some of the NBA playoffs. this
Okay,
past
that makes
week,
two
so.
of us.
Start in the East with
I was
the
watching the Orioles last.
with the Heat Celtics series. It's the better of the two series right now. It's 2-2. And how about our boy Victor Oladipo? The Math Class 2010 came off the bench last night, but he played more minutes than anybody else on the team with 30 of them. He took more shots with 16. He made more shots with 7 of them. He went 4 for 7 from 3, and he led the team in scoring and assists with 23 and 6. Oh, and he also had a +4 plus minus in a 20-point loss. So good for Vic. Not so great for the Heat, who lost by 20. And to be fair, the game never really felt as close as that 20-point margin of victory suggests. What happened to the Heat last night? Like, they played pretty even ball after the first quarter. They even outscored Boston in the second half. But, whew, that first quarter was PU.
You don't get any credit for winning the garbage time quarters, right? Like, you got to win the ones when it's competitive, but
it was never competitive.
well, no, that's
I
the
think I
problem.
turned on the game and it was like 29 or 28-4.
28-4.
They didn't score a field goal till like 3 minutes to go in the first quarter. They had 1 point.
Somehow they managed to score 11 points in the quarter despite not having any points with just a few minutes left.
Because they eventually started putting the ball in the hoop because they put Victor in the lineup. Like, Victor hit the first field goal. He hit a 3. And
He had
then
like
hit a couple
5 of
more.
their first 8 points.
Yeah, he was the only one that showed up. Like, we knew that coming into the game, Jimmy Butler was dealing with a knee issue. We knew that Tyler Hero wasn't going to be there, but that doesn't excuse this game for the Heat. Like, they were totally out of sorts. They seemed like they were instantly ready to fold it up and go back to Miami tied 2-2, and I absolutely hate that. Like, I don't understand why teams, and it happens a lot in these series, where whether it's the road team wins game 1 and then they just say, hey, we don't even have to win game 2. I'm like, no, you have to win 4 to win the series, guys. So it doesn't matter where the game is. You got to win 4 out of 7. If you give one away, that puts you in a position to lose home court as soon as you got it. So that would be a huge mistake in my opinion, and they gave this one away. It just didn't make any sense to me how they lacked any urgency when they really could have basically put the series away had they won this game. Whereas the Celtics did not exactly play great offensively to start the game. They were missing a bunch of open shots. The Heat were honestly lucky to be within 16 to 18 points after that first quarter, and they still never really put together any type of run. It was a bad showing, and I'll go back to what I said at the start of this series. Boston's better. I mean, they're just flat out the better team. It's a question of whether or not the Celtics are going to give games away, which they've had a penchant to do this postseason, and health. I mean, Marcus Smart missed last night's game. Robert Williams, the Time Lord, has missed 2 out of the 4 games, and those happen to be the 2 games that Miami won. And he seems like he's probably going to be back, hopefully, for the rest of this series. But obviously, with his knee issues, that's kind of comes and goes. And then the Miami Heat have their own issues. Jimmy Butler played last night, but he missed the second half of Game 3. I don't think his knee soreness is going to get that much better. It just seems like pain management. It probably is a tendonitis type of issue. That's not going away. Tyler Hero missed Game 4. They say he's going to be ready for Game 5, but
what does that mean?
what is how
ready?
effective can you be if you just had to miss a game 2 nights ago? So this feels like a little bit of a war of attrition as well. And
yeah, like this doesn't have the same feel as like in the last Warriors series in the conference semis where they lost by 50 points to Memphis. Like, this doesn't feel quite the same as that. Where, like, coming off of that, you're like, man, that was really ugly. But the Warriors still have really good players. They can bounce back.
Yeah, you figured the Warriors would still get it together and win Game 6, which they did. And the difference here, though, is that the Warriors had a bad half. The Miami Heat lost 12 out of 14 quarters leading up to halftime of Game 4. So they managed to pull out wins because they were great in the third quarter of Game 1, and they blew the Celtics off the floor in the first quarter of Game 3. But beyond that, they haven't been able to score the basketball consistently. They had like 6 points in the fourth quarter of Game 3, almost let the Celtics come all the way back. The Celtics got within 1 point after they had trailed by 26 at one point. Like, that's just, it's not sustainable to me. Like, if they get out of the series, it's going to feel like it's because the Celtics either blew it or got hurt. It's not going to feel like Miami really took it to them. They still have a shot. I'm not going to deny that. They've got home court advantage. They have 2 out of the last 3 games in Miami, which is a big advantage. But, they better bring it. And these guys that are supposedly going to be playing, they better either manage their pain or they better be fully healthy, because if I'm the Celtics, I feel like, we gave 2 games away and we're still at 2-2. So they should win this series. And that's kind of where I'm feeling right now.
Do you think that the winner of Game 5 whoever that is, will win this series. Obviously, the odds favor them because
Yeah, of course.
they get 2 tries to win one, whereas the other team might only get 1 try if they lose it. But do you think that that is how this will play out, that the winner of the next game will win the series?
I would say probably, yeah. Obviously, if the Celtics win it, they would go back to Boston for Game 6, and
If the Heat win it, then even if they lose in Boston, they get to come back
they
home
get to come back
for
for
Game
Game
7.
7. Yeah. So like each team would have at least one shot at home, and the odds speak for themselves. You said that, but it feels like winning 2 games in a row in this series is going to be really difficult just because of who's in and out of the lineup. So yeah, I would say the team that wins Game 5 should be heavily, heavily favored.
So, given how important Game 5 is, what would you say are the keys to victory for the 2 teams tomorrow night?
Well, I would say that Miami's got to get Bam Adebayo going because he had a great Game 3, kind of really carried them, especially with Jimmy Butler being compromised and then not even in the game. I think that he needs to figure it out. He struggled mightily. I think he took 5 shots in Game 4. That's unacceptable, especially knowing that your primary star and your primary scorer, Jimmy Butler, is playing through knee pain. So this is a situation where you've got to step up. I don't know why Bam struggles from time to time, but it's hard to believe that Robert Williams isn't a factor because he was out there and he seemed to give Bam fits on the defensive end, whereas he wasn't there for Game 3, and that's when Bam really took off. So I'm not sure that that this is going to get better because, like I said, I don't see the Time Lord sitting out much more time in this series. Now, if they tell me tomorrow that Robert Williams isn't going to play, then I would say, oh, this could be real trouble for Boston. But I haven't seen anything to indicate that so far. And for the Celtics, it's just a matter of the best players have to play at a high level. And Jason Tatum has not done that all the time. He was terrible in Game 3. He scored 10 points. He faked an injury. That was just weak sauce. And I don't really know what to say.
Weak sauce?
Yeah, it's almost as weak as certain people's trash talk on this podcast. But
Well, wait.
yeah,
Just
yep.
Lions don't concern themselves with the opinions of sheep.
Oh, that's what
right?
you are.
So this is
yes,
nonsense.
you are a lion, the cowardly lion. Thank you. That's enough from the
Okay,
peanut
well,
gallery.
I mean, this is unbelievable, right?
I agree.
You're talking more stuff now that your team lost.
I was willing to let
Why?
it go. You're the one that said, "Hey, let me trash talk after the fact, like a big
isn't
win."
letting it go. This is letting it continue.
Nah,
You're bringing it back up again, but you don't have anything to stand on.
I've just
right?
proven
There's
the
no
point. I've
moral
got plenty to
victories.
stand on. Oh, there's no moral victories in fantasy baseball? There's no real victories in fantasy baseball. It's fake.
Well, you didn't get one this week.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, congratulations, Evan. You got a fake victory. I'm so happy for you.
Well, you took a fake loss. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what
Really
are you
struggling
talking
there.
about here?
I'm feeling so bad about my fake loss. That's
You
tough.
should, because you said so much stuff
I
all
said
week
one
and
thing,
didn't back it
and
up.
you freaked
Yeah,
out,
that
and
was
then
one too
cowered
many
away.
things.
Yeah, and then you sat there and you cowered in a corner all week until you
cowered
got
in
the
a
win.
corner?
Yeah, you were shaking. Sorry stuff, Evan. Sorry stuff.
Well, you lost to me. Remember?
Oh, that's
Remember.
okay, that doesn't matter. I'm okay with that.
It does matter. That's the whole point. That's what we're doing here.
Yes, we're playing fake fantasy. We're playing nonsense baseball. Congratulations.
Fake fantasy?
Yeah, fake everything. Everything is fake. But the basketball is real, and I'm going to get back to that. So
You're the one who deviated from your topic, remember?
Yes, I did, because you're being silly. Anyway, Jason Tatum needs to play well. Jaylen Brown has stepped up, although he had to have a bunch of turnovers in Game 3. Victor Oladipo kept picking his pocket. And I think that Vic could be a turning point factor in this series. The fact that he looks like he's got a little bounce. He looks like he's maybe not quite back to what he was in 2018, but he's there. And he's able to be a pest on defense. He's scoring the ball pretty well. I think they're going to need something from him just because everybody else feels like you're not going to be able to count on for 48 minutes. And I'm really curious to see how this game plays out because one team has shown up each game. We haven't had a game where both teams really came out and played a legitimate game. It's been blowout cities. So if Boston gets complacent, I could see them messing this up. They did that a couple times against against Milwaukee. And if Miami just doesn't think that Boston's going to take them too seriously, they could mess it up. I mean, I'm not expecting a close game. I just don't know who's going to get blown out, because that's just how this series has gone.
So let's move on out to the West. And the Warriors leading the Mavericks 3-0. So series feels like it's just about over. However, Michael Porter Jr. is not going to be available.
I'm sorry, Jr.
Thank you. Yeah, Otto Porter Jr. will not be available. Who does Michael Porter play for? Denver?
Plays for the Nuggets, yeah.
Otto Porter Jr. will not be available for the Warriors in Game 4. Will that factor at all into the outcome of this game, do you think?
I mean, maybe, but he didn't play for pretty much all of Game 3 either, and it didn't change the outcome. So, I mean, what this is going to come down to, I don't even know if it'll come down to this, because we've seen what happens when the Mavericks make their shots. They still lose because the Warriors cook them. So it feels like if Golden State sleeps on Dallas tonight, I think Dallas can win, maybe. But I also know that I'm kind of drawing some, not parallels, because there are no parallels to this. When the Warriors were up 3-0 on the Nuggets, Michael Malone and Nikola Jokic were at the presser basically vowing to keep fighting. And Game 4 was in Denver. And beyond just, words at the podium, you also have to have a reason to believe it. And Michael Malone historically has always been a guy that's never going to give up. And we saw it happen. He came back from 3-1 down twice in the bubble with the Nuggets. But also, Jokic had a lot of pride on the line in that series because they knew he was going to be named MVP again. And he was on the verge of getting swept again. And the media was having their way with him, saying how much of a big disappointment he was. I believe on this podcast I even said it's going to be tough for him to eat it if he gets swept again. And so he didn't get swept. He played brilliantly in Game 4, willed them to a win there, and played great in Game 5 as well, and they lost because he just couldn't quite do it all by himself. But this is different. It felt like almost like Jason Kidd and Luka Doncic were resigned to the fact that they were toast in this series. And with that being the case, it feels like if the Warriors come out tonight and jump out to any type of lead, Dallas is going to quit. And there's plenty of incentive for Golden State to win this game, because if they win this game, the series is over.
Yeah, you get to rest.
Yeah, you get 9 days off because the finals don't start till the June 2nd. So it's going to be a while. And the Mavericks don't really have the incentive to win this game because all it does is get you a trip back to San Francisco where you're going to get your ass beat in Game 5. So it just doesn't feel like there's all that much investment. But we've also seen the Warriors kind of take things for granted. Game 5 against Memphis, where they got blown out. So I think that the Mavericks could pull this out if their shooters are hot. But if they have a bad quarter, they could fold. And
it sounds like even if they were to win this game, you don't see any way that the Mavericks can put any kind of pressure on Golden State at this point. This series is over.
No way. If they could do it, they would have done it with their defense by now. The issue is that Dallas relies on hitting a bunch of threes to outscore you. But the issue is that Golden State can still outscore you even when you hit those threes. Yeah. So you have
they also score threes.
Yeah, and they score a lot of twos.
Yeah.
Like they were living in the paint all series. Like nobody's keeping Steph out of the paint. Nobody's kept Jordan Poole out of the paint. Even Klay Thompson's gotten to the hoop. We saw Luka Doncic just get absolutely demolished by Andrew Wiggins on a dunk.
Yeah. I mean, meanwhile, Draymond Green is hitting almost threes out here.
Yeah, he's stepping on the line and hitting shots. So the only thing left to decide for the series is apparently the NBA decided that they're going to give out conference MVPs or conference finals MVPs like baseball does for like ALCS and LCS MVPs for teams that win the pennant. I think the Eastern Conference Award's named after Larry Bird, and the Western Conference one's named after Mike Johnson.
Is the first year doing that?
Yes. This was announced just a couple weeks ago, and this is almost as meaningless as finals MVP, but people get caught up in these type of things. So the only thing left to decide is who wins that for Golden State, and the only reason I say that is because please don't mess this up. Don't give it to somebody that's not named Steph Curry. Like he's the guy. He's leading the team in scoring. He's averaging 28 points a game. He's shooting 48% from three. It's him.
But with his defense, I think you have to consider Jordan Poole.
No, it's Stephen Curry. With his defense, you definitely don't consider Jordan Poole because he's a terrible defender. So no, it goes to Steph. And there's been some talk about, I think Andrew Wiggins has been the best player in the series. I mean, no, he hasn't. The only reason you're saying that is because you have lower expectations from Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins has been very good. I've been impressed with him in this series. He's not better than Steph. That's absurd. I shouldn't have to say that out loud. But you know how it goes, and I think the reason why people are considering giving him that award isn't because of Andrew Wiggins, it's because of Luka Doncic. And they want to make this series all about Luka and how Luka has no help, and Luka's the guy doing everything, but they can't give the award to Luka, especially if he gets swept. So they got to give it to the closest guy in proximity, which is the guy who's primarily defending him. But that's to me, that's garbage. It goes to the best player, period. And Steph's been the best player in the series, and he's clearly the best player on Golden State's team.
Yep. So that wraps up all the topics on our sheet.
I feel like you skipped the Orioles.
We didn't talk about the Orioles.
Oh, that's my bad. Yeah, we did skip the Orioles. So we definitely have to talk about them, especially because Adley Rutschman made his debut on Saturday night against Tampa Bay. So let's talk about the Orioles. Rutschman made his debut, his first hit, followed in the footsteps of Matt Wieters and Manny Machado with a triple. So good for him.
Triple.
Yeah, Eric talked to me about that earlier this week already. The fact that it was a little bit generous to call it a triple.
It was definitely a double.
Yeah. But meanwhile, Evan, you were in Cleveland, so you did not get to watch your Orioles. You were not home to go to his debut game.
No, I couldn't go to the game because I was in Cleveland and had tickets to the Guardians game against the Tigers, but there were severe thunderstorms in Cleveland, so I was just laying on a bed in a hotel in Independence, Ohio, watching the Orioles on my phone. I bought MLB.TV this season for out-of-market games. I really enjoy watching the Dodgers and the Mets on there, but since I was in Ohio, I got to watch the Orioles, and I watched the whole game. And it was great. I mean,
yeah, but you don't like the Orioles anymore, right, Evan? Because they screwed you out of your opportunity to go and see Adley. They just called him up earlier in the week.
On Monday,
everybody in Orioles Nation thought they were going to do. You could have gone.
Going to happen, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
But no, what have you been your guys' impressions of Adley in his first few games? I mean, didn't play very well last night, but prior to that, he was hitting the ball pretty well.
He's a rookie.
He has a tremendous eye at the plate.
Oh yeah.
So maybe he's not making the best contact yet, but he doesn't swing at junk. Remember, we got frustrated with Adam Jones for years about swinging at those low and away sliders in the dirt. It took 6 years for him to stop swinging at those.
I don't even know if that's true. He was still swinging at him before he left town.
Oh,
chasing
okay.
everything.
Well, yeah, so that's been good. He's a switch hitter. Tremendous work behind the plate as well. I haven't seen him throw anybody out trying to steal yet, I don't think.
I don't think anybody's tried it.
Yeah, I mean, they know better, So, and then he does such great work sort of personally with the pitchers as well. Every time at the end of an inning, he always walks off the field with the pitcher, either high-fiving or yelling or, just talking about whatever happened for just that brief moment. And, that builds camaraderie and chemistry. And that can carry a baseball team a long way. If the guys just like each other more, I mean, you can win a few more games like that. You can get on a hot run down the stretch just because the vibes are good. Obviously, you still have to play, right? The three of us could have great vibes, but we're not going to be Major League Baseball players.
No, we are.
We're not going to win. So,
I'm not.
But I'm the best.
Yeah.
Around.
Yeah, I got to go through life like Baker Mayfield and think I'm God's gift to the baseball field or something. And even then, it's not going to work out for me. I'm going to get destroyed.
Right, yeah. So I'm so excited that Adley's here. I'm so excited. And all of his at-bats are must-see TV at this point.
Yeah, I saw when he was in Bowie, Adley did the whole, after the inning, he went and chatted up the pitcher and things like that. And at first, I kind of assumed that was just because he was catching pitches from Grayson Rodriguez. So I figured, they're coming up together. They're the battery of the future, so they've got a little bit of a bond. But then, yeah, like Evan said, when he got to the show, he's doing the same thing with everybody up here, and I was like, wow, this.
With Cionel Perez.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just it's great to see. We knew that he was that type of dude. Obviously, he's tremendously talented as well. And yeah, I agree with you, Evan. That his hitter's eye is incredible, and that's the most important thing you got. I mean, if you can't lay off the bad pitches, people are going to make a fool out of you every time. And I feel like the contact's going to come as he adapts to major league quality pitching, but the fact that he's not being fooled by it suggests that it's just a matter of getting the timing down rather than figuring out where the hell the ball's even going. So, that's step 2, and he kind of skipped step 1. He's already got that down. So, I'm figuring a couple months, you might see a completely different player who's already been pretty darn good his first few games. I mean, I think that in 2 months you could see him have a July where he hits 280 or something like that. You start seeing some of the power come out, and then we're going to be just losing our minds with excitement for the rest of the summer and heading into the offseason because can't wait.
Yeah, Evan spent like 17% of his fab to pick up Adley Rutschman 2 weeks before he was called up. But we'll see how that
that
turns
is
out
what you
for
do
him.
with fab, though. Like,
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
You can pick up guys you actually need for free. If you want a sentimental pickup like Adley Rutschman, you pay the money for it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I respect the hustle.
Yeah. So Sunday, Rashonda had a virtual bridal shower here, so I went down to Denizens for a little bit during the afternoon for like an hour or so, and I was watching some of the Orioles game down there until somebody came in and changed it to the Nats. I was like, really? Like, why are we watching the Nats? The Nats are worse than the Orioles right now.
They're kind of the local team, though, right?
I guess, but I did get to see a couple of at-bats from Adley, and I will say, his batter's eye definitely seemed pretty good.
He looks like a professional baseball player, which is something that the Orioles have not had in great supply the last few years. It was,
oh my goodness.
Like even just watching him behind the plate, like just watching him just do the basic thing of being a catcher, which is catch the ball. He just looked better at that than the goofballs we've had out there.
Yeah.
Pedro Severino and Anthony Bemboom. Like, these guys.
Boom hit that one home run though. That was pretty cool.
We already talked
So did
about
Taylor Teagarden. Like,
We already talked about the Orioles beating my Yankees last night. Garrett Cole was on the mound for the Yankees, and it didn't matter. But bigger than that, the Orioles have won 4 of their last 5 games, including a series win against the team that's in second place in the division, the Tampa Bay Rays. So talk a little bit about this recent string of I guess success.
We beat the Rays twice, right?
well, that's twice as many times
Yeah.
we beat the Rays all last
Exactly.
season.
We did that twice in 3 games when we did it once in 19 last year. Like when we won that first game,
The Yankees appreciate it, by the way, because for some reason we seem to lose way more games than we should against you, but then you guys don't beat any of the other teams in the division, so it winds up only hurting the Yankees.
Sounds like a you problem, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, that's on you. But yeah, like I couldn't contain nor explain my excitement to my family when we beat the Rays, and I was like legitimately going nuts. And I was like, you don't understand. We haven't beaten this team since like last April or something like that. I'm gonna celebrate this one like we just won the Commissioner's Trophy, even if it is just a hunk of metal.
I mean,
Jeez.
yeah, and the Orioles win. You know, everything is better in the world when the Orioles win. It's just,
The beer's cold.
yeah, the beer's really cold, but the Orioles been causing a lot of hot beers lately, I must say. But I'm just glad the team is interesting to watch, right? Like, like before Adley and before Kyle Bradish, like they've just run out these guys. It's like, ugh, him again, really? But there's we're starting to see the fruits of this rebuild, right? Like the Orioles stunk so bad in 2018, they drafted Adley Rutschman in 2019. I'm reminded of when the Tigers lost 119 games in 2003. In 2004, they drafted Justin Verlander. So I think with the second pick, some kind of way.
How did they not have the first pick?
I don't know.
What?
Yeah, I don't know why, but yeah. So they drafted Justin Verlander, and that turned out pretty good. They were in the World Series in 2006. So
And in 2012.
huh?
Yep.
And in 2012.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you cut out for a second. So, it's the Orioles are trending up, and it's great. It's great.
We'll see how long that continues for. Hopefully for a while, for your guys' sake, but we'll see. In the
Well, it's
meantime,
3-2 in New York right now, so it was 3-0.
Who's-
Lots of people just giving up bombs.
Who's the lead?
Yankees are up
lead?
3-2.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any of those bombs to Aaron Judge?
I think so.
Ooh, yes. 18 for him and some more points from me.
Still
So
trailing.
that
Mike
does
Trout more.
officially wrap up all the topics that we had on our sheet for today.
Rizzo, Trevino, Torres for the Yankees at home.
boo. This was episode 196. As always, please feel free to email us, thesportsballers@gmail.com, if you have topics you'd like to hear us talk about on future shows. Always appreciate any mailbag questions, suggestions, comments, reviews from our fans. You can follow us on Twitter at SportsBallers18. We try to keep everybody updated on when our show is going to be each week. And we tweet out links and stuff during in the lead up to the show. You can follow me individually on Twitter at Corey Puffett. You can follow Eric at Quagmire67, and you can follow Evan at Evan_Ash13. Evan is also on Instagram now, Coaster Evan. So you can follow him over there if you are a coaster enthusiast, or even if you just want to see what coasters he's been on recently, because I'm always seeing those up on his story. You can make sure that you hit the subscribe button on the podcast. If you made it this far, then hopefully that means you've enjoyed what you've been listening to. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and Amazon. You can also listen to us live on our YouTube channel if you're not doing that right now. Definitely encourage you to try and do that. You can join the conversation in our chat. Definitely love to be able to interact with our fans. Don't get to do it enough outside of the NFL Draft Podcast. We'd love to increase that a little bit. Before we get out of here, shout outs for this week.
Yes, shout out to Patrick Sandoval, who I picked up at like 20 after 1 on Sunday from the upper deck of PNC Park. Just never heard of this guy. Pitching against A's, 15 and a quarter points for me. So it's my seventh pitcher start.
Made the difference and then some.
It was a huge start. So shout out to, I have to amend a shout out that I had last week. I shouted out Bob Melvin for giving Manny Machado a day off after a couple of 0 for 4 days, like, a smart functioning manager does, unlike the previous guy. But Bob Melvin was out with an illness at the time, so I was incorrect. I should have appropriately given that shout out to Ryan Christensen, the bench coach for the San Diego Padres. But the point still stands that it was not Jace Tingler.
Jace Tingler.
Do you have a fresh shout out for this week, Eric?
No.
Okay. Well, I'll give a shout out to DeMatha's track team. Brought home the WCAC championship this week, the only WCAC championship for DeMatha this year. So, we're going to try and get us started right in the fall, right off the bat. The very first WCAC championship each year is the cross-country one, and we're going to try and bring that home. We have our interest meeting tomorrow. Doubt that any prospective runners are listening right now, but if you are, consider coming out for cross-country. Interest meeting tomorrow night, and we start training first week of June. That's going to do it for this week's episode of the Sports Ballers Podcast. We appreciate those of you who are listening so much. Hope to have you join us live next week. We'll keep you up to date on our Twitter with when that will be. But until then, take care out there, stay safe, and see you next time.